Evening, everybody. Many of you may know I'm Jim Martin, Chair of the 19th Board of Education. We always open our meeting with public comment. Before we get to public comment, I jotted down a little statement that I'd like to read. I hope you will stay away from it. It's longer than I thought it would be before I started it. Probably not particularly artful, but bear with me, okay? And then we'll go through this and get into public comment. So, what I wrote down was, as you all know, tonight as part of our meeting, we will be discussing whether or not to continue the masking requirement at E.O. Smith High School. At the moment, the board's policy is to continue the masking requirement until our March 1 regular monthly meeting, which is tonight, obviously. So unless and until something else is decided, at least for the moment, the masking requirement remains in place in this meeting as well. And we ask that all in attendance please comply just for this one night so that we can go forward with the meeting. We know that this is an emotionally charged issue and that emotions run high on both sides of this particular issue. We also know that people here tonight want the board to be aware of their positions on the issue as well as their reasons for it. And whether or not you might think otherwise, the board really wants to hear what we have to say. It becomes very important. You'll be surprised the impact and effect of what you might have to say can have on decisions that are ultimately made by the board. So we would also very much appreciate it if any comments before the board could be kept civil. I know it's very hard. There are emotions, like I said, that run high in this particular circumstance, and it's easy to get carried away with the emotions. But it would be very helpful for everybody if we can just keep it civil, make your points, because we do want to hear it. Again, it's important. And also keep in mind that while public access to the meeting is a requirement, public comments are not. It's a courtesy we've always extended for the reason that we want to hear what people have to say. And again, members of our community have to say about our school. About our school, I mean the school for all of us, not just the board. The public, the staff, the teachers, the students, the administration, and members of the Region 19 community. That's our school and our school community. So again, I ask that you please keep comments civil, and that will provide the best opportunity for all comments to be heard. Every person who would like to address the board will have 3 minutes to do so. In addition, email comments from those who may be live streaming will also be read at tonight's meeting. This way, we hope to be able to give everyone who might want to be heard an opportunity to present his or her opinion. I know that in other communities, some people have felt the need to be disruptive, and that's resulted in clearing the meeting room so the board can continue with this meeting. That option, while it remains available to me, should it become necessary, I really don't want to do that. I would very much like to avoid having to do that. Personally, I feel it's unfair. Other people will then have a chance to offer their opinions on the issue, and it further denies the board from hearing what could be a piece of information which ultimately affects its decision. So please keep that in mind when you come forward to offer your comments. I thank you in advance for your understanding and for bearing with me in this long statement. And hopefully we'll be able to have a very fruitful discussion. Also, right after public comment, I'm going to sort of change the order of the agenda because of the issue and its importance. I think that rather than going through our normal agenda procedure, what I will do is go right to the board's discussion on the issue. So we'll hear your comments, go right into discussion. And that way, you'll have an answer and a decision before you have to stay here very late tonight. I think that will be better for us. Everybody will know where things stand early in the meeting. Without having to wait till the end of the night whenever that may be, find out what was decided. So having said all of that, thank you again for listening. We would now be going to accept public comment. But before we do that, we need to call roll.
Herb Erico,
Here.
Kim Christensen,
Here.
Liz Keasy,
Here.
Nancy Sylander,
Here.
Bob Jellin, Jim Mark,
Here.
Janice Chamberlain, here, Tony Pacheco,
Here.
Sarah Smith, here, Deb Holgren,
Here.
Tim Work,
Here.
Morgan Donaldson. Here. Thank you.
With respect to the public comment, we've had people that have written in and have expressed comments on emails. What we'll do first is we'll start with the email comments. We'll have Sharon, our superintendent, read those comments. And then anybody that's like to address the board, we have to come forward. It might be better if you are willing to stand at the podium. There's a microphone at the podium, and it will make it easier for people on live stream to hear what you have to say. So if you do that, again, much appreciated. Right. Yep.
So please bear with me. I'm going to try and speak loudly. We just ask that anybody who is speaking this evening, board members and community members, to speak as loudly as you can. I know it feels like we're yelling, but it feels a little bit like I'm yelling, but just to make sure that the folks who are live streaming and listening in get to hear everything that everybody has to say. So the first public comment is from Mike McCune from Willington, who says, despite an apparent division in our society, none of us wants our kids or ourselves in masks. But most of us realize it has been prudent public health policy. While I hope the decision is to reduce or drop mask requirements, I have faith that this decision is going to be made on the basis of science and care for our students and school community. I have faith in those making the decision and will respect whatever guidance is issued. Thank you. Our next comment is from Kimberly Kulan from Columbia. I'm writing in support of mask choice. To continue to force masks in school at this point would simply be an abuse of power. Please make the logical and scientifically supported decision to end the mask mandate immediately and return to each family their freedom to choose. The next comment, yeah, it's on the part of the screen, and this is a long one. So the next comment, I believe, is from Tim and Tia callers from Ashford. And they state, let's see those smiles tomorrow, exclamation point. We are seeing thousands of wonderful smiles posted all over the internet of children laughing, dancing, and showing their joy at removing masks. Let's join the hundreds of schools throughout the state and give our kids this gift right now. Tonight, I would like to touch on a few key points that are the most important to our family as your neighbors and friends. We need to see a plan written down by the BOE to address the lack of education for children quarantined. Kids are missing class time, and even if assignments are given, there's no support for these kids while they are out. They need to be provided what was done in class. We need someone assigned to this task of how to help these kids who will miss key information they may need later in the year. We are hearing that school staff throughout the state are bullying the children about their mask choice. Teachers are being reported as telling kids their medical issues and insinuating that if the kids remove masks, they could somehow hurt the teachers. This is beyond inappropriate, and it hits on a big issue we see at EOS of teachers promoting their personal views in class. Whether it is politics or masking, children should not know the personal opinions of teachers at all. I ask the BOE to put out a statement in writing tonight to address this issue before it becomes more of a problem in our town. One example another district in Connecticut used was the following. The decision to mask or not is personal choice, and it's important that we respect each other's decision. Any judgment, questioning, or ostracization of anyone for the choice they make will not be tolerated, as we are not aware of each person's unique circumstances that may impact their decision. I'd ask the BOE to discuss how they will reprimand any staff that abuses children in this way in the future. This should include any personal opinions of the staff. It is time to stop. I ask parents to stop being afraid and report every case where a teacher shares their personal views with your child. If you choose to extend masking, we will be putting in an FOIA request. We want to see the following in writing. Immense data showing that the masks the school allows are actually effective. Immense data showing District 19 is different from any other district in Connecticut and what reason it needs to mask. Scrolling is not easy in this stuff. Any numbers on vaccination status, and that it shows a very high percentage of people who participated. There is no reason we should not see masks removed today. Let's see those smiles, exclamation point. Matt Halloran from Ashford states, I vote to unmask the kids at EO. There was also a petition that was shared. Let me see. I have the language for it, I just don't, I want to make sure I give credit to the person who stated it, it's not on my screen. Actually, it was submitted by someone who just referred to themselves as all towns in District 19. It's a petition to unmask our kids in Connecticut to Governor Ned Lamont, the Connecticut General Assembly, the Connecticut Department of Public Health, and the Connecticut State Department of Education. We, the undersigned residents of Connecticut, demand an immediate end to all mask mandates for children under 18 years old, regardless of vaccination status, and it includes District 19 resident signatures. We have a comment from Katie Olette from Coventry, who states, thank you for hearing my comments. I, as a concerned parent of an EO Smith student, would like to express my opinion on the mask mandate. These kids have been masked or remote learning for close to 2 years. Some of them have never seen their high school classmates without masks. I've held back comments for almost 2 years because no teenager wants their parents to put them in an awkward situation where they can be targeted because their family may feel different than their friends. So now, with their agreement, feel free to voice my opinion. I'm not going into the past where we all know how much has been lost, instead of moving forward. The case numbers are low. The CDC is finally saying kids in school don't need masks. We saw with studies that this was all worthless. At the same time, so many sacrifices. The town has lifted their mandate. The elementary schools made masks optional. It's been too long. Let these kids have the masks up. Leave the masks at home if they choose. Let them wear them if they want. The CIAC isn't requiring them. It's time to get back to normal and start discussing things that matter more in the world we're living in. My hope tonight is that if not unanimously, at least a majority of our board takes the kids into consideration. Surrounding towns, which a lot of EO students come from, have made masks optional. Have looked at their mandates. They are safe friends, be normal teenagers. Please let ours be as well, effective tonight. Oh, Kevin Cook from Willington states, I think it's well past time to get rid of the mask mandate unless anyone is able to articulate valid reasons for its continuance. Our children have been the ones suffering from the consequences of extremely poor political decisions. Enough harm has been inflicted on them. Time to give up the 2.5-year-old emergency rules that have been nearly 100% ineffective and unnecessary and only serve as a detriment to our kids. Thank you. And then the last comment we have right now is from Kathy Ryan from Willington, who says they do not have a comment at this time.
Is that it for the?
That's it for us. Yeah, and I apologize for the choppiness. It was very difficult for me to get the whole text box in my screen.
Okay, so if there's anybody in the audience tonight that would like to address the board, please come forward, just state your name and town, just so we know who is. Nobody?
My name is Jessica Callahan from Columbia, and I have a junior over there.
Jessica, a little louder, please.
Yeah, it's hard, I know, I apologize, the mask gets harder, but
Am I
you
on?
tell right.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm from Columbia. I have a junior here at ESN. I've actually sent a few emails to the board over the past few weeks, so you may recognize my name, but I did have a couple things that I wanted to actually add. So I'm here, I guess, like the mass media, obviously. I'm here about choice. Choice is the main thing that parents want for our children. Everyone has the ability and the freedom to wear a mask. No one is saying you cannot wear a mask. Everyone can wear whatever kind of mask they want to wear. If you want to wear an N95 mask, if you want to wear 2 masks, go right ahead. But we're telling everyone that they must do what everyone else is doing instead of giving choice. And that is frustrating. Recently, we've been getting emails from the school saying that cases are down and it's because of masking. I don't really see how that's possible when we've been wearing masks for 2 years now at the school, and there's been cases since we've been wearing masks. So did they magically start working? I'm just not following that logic at all. States all over this country have not forced masks for months, and some not for a year. In Connecticut here, we're still continuing to do this. Hundreds of towns all over the state have already gone optional. So I'm just not sure why we're still discussing this in Mansfield. Columbia has communicated that they respect parents' choice. We literally got an email from our Columbia superintendent saying masks are optional as soon as the state mandate is lifted. And in that email, they said, we respect parents' choice. That was very encouraging to a lot of people in the town of Columbia, and that's something that I feel is very important. Right now, I have a child going to a Columbia school, and she does not have to wear a mask. It's optional. Yet my son has to come here and still wear a mask. We're in the same health district. That doesn't even make sense to me. Lastly, on the topic of Columbia, there are 8th grade parents right now that are making their decisions for their freshmen on where they're going to go next year. A lot of parents are looking at what's going on in Mansfield right now when they're making their decisions. Some parents have children here enrolled at EO right now that are talking about transferring their children to other schools because of the mask mandate. It's time to end the mandates, give everyone the freedom of choice and personal responsibility. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alan Marcus. I'm from Mansfield. I was not planning to speak tonight. I'm here to support my child who's here presenting to the board as one of the EO students. But in hearing all of those emails, I really didn't hear much representation from Mansfield, so I thought I would go ahead and speak. And I certainly don't claim to speak for all Mansfield residents. I do not envy your task. This is a difficult issue. I don't. If I was in your position, I certainly would not have the answer, but I thought I'd offer a little bit of context from my perspective. A fundamental challenge we've had for over 200 years is the debate between individual freedom and what's best for the common good. I mean, there's so many issues where that comes into play. But I don't see this as so much as an issue of choice. I think the more important decision is about what is in the best interest of everybody. I'm particularly concerned with those who are immunocompromised and who would be unable to attend school if the mask mandate is removed. I don't have an immunocompromised child, but we have to look out for the most vulnerable in our society. And the last thing, I'm really, I'm disappointed in the dialogue that's happened in the US, not here tonight, but overall with this issue. You know, we've had almost 1 million people in this country die from COVID. We have 500,000 kids in the US that don't have a parent anymore. If you live in China and you're Muslim, you're being put into a re-education camp. We have 600,000 people fleeing the Ukraine and hundreds of citizens being killed. We have millions of Americans living in poverty. And we have people complaining about wearing a mask. So I think wearing a mask and the possible sacrifice you might be making for the better good of the community really needs to be put in perspective. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna Underbeck and I'm from Mansfield. I am a freshman here at Yale and I would like to represent my perspective from on the school grounds as a student. I'm shocked.
Speaking of the mic, pull the mic closer.
Don't be afraid to yell.
Yeah, we're.
Is this loud enough? I can't tell. Okay. So when in school, I personally double mask. I wear an N95 and I also wear a cloth mask. And I find that making this shift to optional masks so quickly personally makes me and quite a few people I know incredibly uncomfortable because we are worried that we just got cases back down under, I think, 3% in this county, in Tacoma County, after them going to 25%, which is a 1 in 4 chance of every test taken being positive. I find that making this change so quickly could prove detrimental because if we run fast, we may see those numbers rise back up again after just getting back down. I personally would like to see the numbers stay stable for longer before we think of doing masks or making them optional, just for ensuring the safety of the community. I also find that very safe to make them optional right now. The way our schools are spread out and the way this virus spreads, we can't effectively really keep away from each other. So masks feel like one of our only boundaries to keep ourselves safe. So removing that so quickly after having such a large high, the highest that our state has had of 1%, prefer if we must go just to see if we really keep things stable within our.
Hello, I'm Kenzie Proctor from Coventry. I didn't plan on talking tonight, but I did want to say some stuff. A person that I know, they do have a box of masks that says right on box does not protect against COVID-19. I think that in itself says a lot, considering surgical masks that are being distributed to people that it says does not protect against COVID-19. And I think for a lot of people, being in this for so long, having to go out in public, just everywhere, having to wear the masks, it makes, it is nerve.
Good.
I just feel like it should be people's choices. If you want to wear a mask and you're nervous about it, I totally respect you. I think you should be able to do whatever you want, and I respect everything you decide. But for me personally, I feel like we've been in this for so long. Like it was said before, we have lower cases because of the masks, but if it's because of the masks, why haven't we had this the whole time? I just think that it should be up to whatever the child decides, or the parents. Just, it should be in the child.
Does anyone want a copy of that petition?
give his email to us, so
Okay.
we'll get part of our record.
All right, you know me, because I sent emails already. David Callahan, 105 West Street, Columbia. I sent you a study, there was a peer-reviewed study that took cases of COVID throughout the entire country. Took all that information, along with mitigation practices in the states, mask mandates, lockdowns, draconian lockdowns. Throughout all that information, this college, with a peer-reviewed study, found none of it made any difference at all. It made no difference on the infection rates and the ups and downs. Some states did well, some states did poorly. It had no correlation to mask use or isolating anyone. Not my study, I didn't do it. I mean, I see the correspondence from school. You know, our cases are down because we're wearing masks. That is not true, and that is not actually supported by any metric at all. Not at all. Right now, right? Who's not wearing a cotton mask because you were told they were ineffective? The majority of you. You wear N95s now because they say, oh, a cotton mask don't actually protect anymore. We know this. Head of NIH, head of CDC. This has been public knowledge for actually quite a while, yet you're allowing children to come to school with cotton masks on, right? My mask does nothing. My job is filtration. I promise you, I understand how your masks work. Another thing is N95 masks are not supposed to be worn for an extended period of time, and anyone with an OSHA certification also knows that. That is extremely unhealthy unless they're vented, which they aren't. So, I understand that. The fear-mongering and the gaslighting that goes on TV, in these smaller communities, is why people are so scared, right? Absolutely so craziness. So right now, it appears to be, especially in Connecticut, there's a political allegiance that goes along with these decisions. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's just kind of how it seems. The CDC, the Eastern Highlands Health District, all have recommended to take masks off of kids, especially in areas that do not have high cases. Do you know currently how many people are hospitalized in Town County today? You're not supposed to answer me, right? It's zero. It's zero. My son is asthmatic. You are tormenting my son. You are hurting my son. My son has irregular breathing now because he's forced to wear a mask. So we're talking about who are we hurting? You directly hurt my kid. It's unacceptable. A couple things that your child is more likely to die of than COVID in Connecticut and around, right? Homicide, drowning, 0 to 19. Suicide. You know, suicide among teenage girls is up 45%. 45%. Isolating kids. This takes away their identity. It's unacceptable. You know that your child is more likely to die of a fentanyl overdose in a Connecticut school than die of COVID. How scary is that? Do you think your kids are going to get in a car accident and die tomorrow? Or do you think they're going to get sick and die of COVID? Because I can tell you, one is way higher than the other. This has been decided. This has been spoken about in Senate hearings. If everyone pays attention, this is Anthony Fauci himself setting precedents in Senate hearings saying, these children are not the contagion you're painting them to be a contagion. They're not. There's no evidence that there's never been contact tracing that has proven that. There's never been evidence that children are infecting adults, children are making adults sick, children are killing adults. If you were a teacher and you feel it is still unsafe to do your job, you probably need to find another job. The rest of us go to work every day. I don't wear a mask at work. I come here in Mansfield. I gotta put a mask on. I do my business all around Mansfield. I don't have to wear a mask. Johns Hopkins did a study, right? They said, what does this look like with lockdowns and mitigation factors? They found it made zero difference, but it made an immeasurable damage to children. Is that my 3 minutes?
You're beyond, so if you.
Wrap up.
The wrap up is simple. What do you look like? What do we look like? The adults, the parents, what do we look like in 5 years and in 10 years? When these kids look back and they're like, what did you do to me? Do I have an answer for my son who is asthmatic and is having trouble breathing in a mask? You're not helping my son. You're not protecting my son. And by all of these metrics, all of these studies, you're not actually protecting anyone.
Good evening. My name's Thomas Belcher from Coventry. My daughter goes to school here, sophomore. Just like to let you guys know my personal feeling. Let the kids and the parents make a choice. If someone feels more comfortable wearing an N95 mask or 2 masks or whatever, if they believe that that mask is effective in protecting them, they should absolutely be able to wear that mask. But for the rest of us, please let our kids and our families make the choice. Thank you.
Work you up there, the rest of the board. Still want to hear what you have to say. Still a member of the faculty and staff. If you want to make a comment, please do so. No, don't jump off. We'll move on. We still have some comments from the last one. So John will be.
So we have comments from Jennifer Beck from Mansfield. States, we strongly encourage the DOE to keep the mask mandate. Science shows the masks work. There's no great sacrifice to wear a mask, especially when you're keeping others safe by doing so. I have a comment from Emma Frost from Mansfield, who states, I strongly urge the board to continue the mask mandate. The minimal inconveniences of wearing masks do not compare to the benefits that they provide. It is critical to think not only about school members who are considered healthy, but also those who are at risk and immunocompromised. Additionally, this decision affects people who live in the homes of members of the EO community. It is vital to protect those who are the most vulnerable, those who are too young to be vaccinated, and those who are at risk. And wearing a mask strongly helps to do this. I have a comment from Jordana Frost from Mansfield, who states, we are encouraged by the decreasing positivity rates and believe that the current mitigation efforts, including mask wearing, have contributed to such encouraging trends. CDC data documented that schools without a mask requirement are 3.5 times more likely to experience outbreaks compared to schools maintaining mask requirements. Outbreaks are detrimental to health as well as continuity. I urge you to maintain the current requirement, not only to continue protecting our school community, but also those family members who might be at higher risk of complications. Complications which, to some extent, are still widely unknown. We are not ready to find out what these complications might be on the backs of our children and families. Small inconvenience of masks far outweigh the benefits. Please continue to keep us safe. I have an additional comment from Tia Callers from Ashford, who asked that we mention the petition that was sent to One Mask for Kids had 412 signatures from residents of District 19. Again, 412 signatures. 412 people who are asking you to allow mask choice, and she'd like that to be acknowledged correctly. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? And I think that I indicated that there's a right to a board discussion on this. I'd like to do this. Does anybody want to make the opening statement? Or do you want to pick up?
A question actually, in terms of just getting the latest feedback from Eastern, the health district, basically what's the feedback that we have from?
The latest feedback was that they were supporting, this was actually part of the comment that they have made to Mansfield folks and given the calculation but that they were supporting the CDC new guidelines for making determinations, for boards to make determinations as to whether or not to unmask.
That's the community level
Yep.
criteria.
And actually county level,
Yes.
county level data is what they were referencing, and at this point right now, both Colin and the county are considered interim. So,
Many of you may know the Mansfield. Can you hear me? The town of Mansfield, that's tonight to go mask on. So we were aware of it. One thing to keep in mind, because it comes back to some of the comments. We're a separate governing body. Mansfield does, the county does, what Columbia does, all can play a role in what we do. They don't make a decision for us. This is a separate individual governing body that makes the rules for the district as a whole. So what Mansfield does is define on us. Which is kind of surprising because in other circumstances it can be, but in this particular circumstance, the way that the legislature and government have come up with their decisions, they kind of advocate responsibility for their way on the school board. So what we decided tonight with respect to our current mask situation, will be the policy for Region 19, but only for Region 19. We don't affect the other towns and their towns. Other comments about, I mean, we heard a lot of different comments we heard from both sides of the argument, and certainly understand why it creates such passion, which it does, and why it generates such emotion, which it does. I can't remember what your name was, but I did hear it very clearly. You obviously bring yourself in, and I appreciate that, because you're very passionate. Presentation. Yeah, just so you know, just as part of the discussion, students put out surveys in the school, and I think it might not be a bad idea for everybody to hear what the students, what the results of those surveys are. Again, it's important not just for everybody in the audience, but for the board. So, Nick, if you guys want to bring something up or pass it the buck. For the end of the day. Sam, you going to
Yeah, do you want us to read our report or do you want us to specifically read the results of the survey?
This basically,
The percentages maybe of the survey.
Okay.
You have that snapshot.
You may want to go to the.
Then you might need to go.
Okay.
So this survey was sent out to students, staff, and parents and guardians. We received 859 responses from students, 161 responses from staff, and 414 responses from parents and guardians. The first question on the survey was, I believe that it is too soon to eliminate the mandatory mask wear mandate at New Smith High School. For students, 42% agreed with this statement, 45% disagreed with this statement, and 13% were undecided. Among staff, 40% agreed with this statement, 51% disagreed with this statement, and 9% were undecided. Among parents and guardians, 43% agree with the statement, 52% disagree with the statement, and 5% were undecided. The second question on the survey was, I would feel safe at school if masks were optional at this event. Among students, 60% agree, 29% disagree, and 11% were undecided. Among staff, 63% agree, 27% disagree, and 9% were undecided. Among parents and guardians, 58% agree, 34% disagree, and 8% were undecided. The third question on the survey was, I would continue to wear a mask regardless of our mandate. Among students, 39% agree with this statement, 25% disagree with this statement, and 36% said maybe. Among staff, 37% agree with the statement, 22% disagree with the statement, and 41% said maybe. Among parents and guardians, 39% agree with the statement, 44% disagree with the statement, and 18% said maybe.
Well, do you want us to read some of the comments? Do you want us to read some of the comments and see how?
Sure, you can, yeah, the same as getting comments from the audience. I wouldn't say you need to go through all of it.
But just like,
A few further, one other further, yeah, perfect.
okay.
So, a few things that the students said on this survey was that people who are unvaxxed should wear masks, that you should use vax rates to decide. One student said that it's too soon. Some worried about the increase of cases if we were to remove the mask and make it an option. Some students were concerned about the crowded areas. And I know a lot of the things that we heard too with that is like the lunchrooms, we know that's really congested. So I know some students were a little bit concerned about that. Some students said that they would probably wear the mask even if it went optional, and then some students said they wouldn't. And then one of the other big things that I saw throughout this, like a kind of trend, was that a lot of students were just worried that it was going to be a surge if we were to take the most. Just because we just got it back down to a little bit lower. So I know a lot of students are concerned about that. And I think that's pretty much like the like a lot of comments were along those lines. From the slides.
So we won't know, I don't know. It gets very difficult to hear when it starts raining in this room. I don't know what the board is going to end up deciding for tonight. One thing, I mean, and we'll get to that. So one thing I can tell you is that regardless of tonight's decision, it's not a permanent decision. Whichever way it goes, it's something that the board is likely to continue to monitor, to look for updates, to see if there's a need to change one way or another, depending upon whatever the decision might be. I think it's the only fair way to handle it. If things, there's a more significant outbreak and we now have a health issue and we've decided to go mask optional, we want to have the opportunity to at least consider the data and make a decision that's ultimately, hopefully, for the benefit of the majority of people, for their health and safety. That's, I think, where we're headed, is ongoing monitoring of whatever the statistics we continue to see from the various health agencies. I know that Liz Beasy is an administrator of East Hartford, and she had an interesting experience after that with East Hartford. Back to you.
Sure. So masks were lifted on Monday, and the messaging has been that the mandate has been lifted. However, it's encouraged and it is choice. And I would say 90% of our high school students continued to wear masks. 10% did not. staff was about the same. But I think the most important thing was that everyone had the choice. So the choice was given and then the choice was respected. And all classes were encouraged to have these conversations and to engage in them and just be respectful of each other for your choice. So that was my own personal experience with lifting the mask mandate out of school.
Some people were insisting to mask.
Yeah.
We're now aware of it.
I mean, part of the issue with administrators and teachers is just patrolling the mask usage, and it was really great to not have to worry about it. But what we saw was some of the kids that we used to have to patrol, now we did not have to. They were wearing them, which was just a little mind-boggling. But again, it was their choice, and they were wearing it, and we weren't having to enforce it.
Yeah, yeah. I want to echo some of the comments Jim made. I also want to state that it's only been in the last 2 days that we have been given. So now, statewide. Okay. I want to be clear that it's only been in the last few days that we have had, as a board, the authority to make any decision on masks. As Jim indicated, whatever decision we're going to make tonight is going to be subject to ongoing monitoring, to circumstances that may change. We've said among ourselves, we're going to follow health agencies, science, and the data, so that if there are spikes or rising incidents or lowering incidents, those are going to factor into our decision of what we're going to do. So we're discussing tonight what we're going to do going forward from today, and laying out how we're going to make decisions in the future.
I think that from my perspective, the health and safety of the students and staff is paramount in the school. And even though we're talking about masks, there are other considerations in regard to whether to wear a mask or not. And I'm thinking in terms of students who have a medical problem and how we would handle their situation. Also, the rate of infection in the school and in the communities. I mean, in Ashford, Wellington, and Wellington. If they spike, then we should have the option to either go back to mass, if that, or go virtual again. And we don't know what the future entails in that respect. And also our decision should take into consideration a student's medical history. And I know when we talk about staff, we're thinking in terms of teachers, but there are other members of our staff who come in contact with students, food services, for example. Are we going to have them wear masks in the cafeteria when they go down there? Not when they're eating, but when they go through the process of going down there. School assemblies, for example. You're going to wear a mask or not wear a mask? I think we have other aspects of this issue that we should consider as well. But I think we should monitor what's happening in the community and watch that very closely. And I think they have a green, yellow, and orange, the state does anyway, to determine the risk in the community. And if it spikes, I think we should go back to mass and distance between each person and go go back to where we were. We don't know what's going to happen. But for myself, I know that in the last 2 years, I haven't worn the mask very often. I should because of my age, but I very seldom. I mix with many people and my own grandkids, and they didn't have masks. I've eaten out in restaurants and the whole works. So that masks, even though, as some of the speakers have said, they haven't proven to help in arresting the pandemic. So that as far as they're concerned, I think it is a big issue, but I think there are other factors that must be taken into consideration. And I don't think we have addressed those.
Yes, Norman.
So I want to echo some of the first comments. I feel like in making this decision, I would want to know more about what would happen if we were to go mask optional. And I would have 3 questions. One is, what safeguards would we put in place to prevent outbreaks at school? So through distancing, through testing, through what other measures would be taken to make sure that outbreaks were less likely to occur. Secondly, what procedures would be in place to monitor the key data and make any decision to reinstate masks if it was warranted? And I guess a third question would be what key metrics would you look at to make those decisions? And then a fourth question would be what communication with families, students, staff put in place about these decisions. And that's a lot. The first, yeah, so yeah, depending on what the will of the board is in regards to the masking piece. A science teacher to remove more than one variable really makes it difficult to know if you see an uptick, what's actually causing it. So some of those mitigating measures will stay in place if the board decides that to go mask optional. In reference to a point that Kurt just made, one of the comments that I read from the students who were undecided about whether or not they continue to mask if the mask mandate was lifted was that in some circumstances, maybe, and in some circumstances, maybe not. And an assembly was one example of a place where kids might be more likely, based on the survey, to wear a mask because they know that there are folks concentrated. As far as metrics are concerned, we really are dependent upon what the health district and the state provides us. And there are ongoing information boards that we get updates on. And the health district sends out every week the number of current cases. So even last week I shared some data with the board in regards to where each of our 7 towns were in their cases per 100,000, which prior to the CDC's the threshold was one of the points that we took a look at. And even from 1 week to the next, those cases have diminished. And where the entire state was almost completely red, according to one of the maps that's on the Department of Public Health website, that started to shift, within our own district. So we went from everybody being red in a week to Mansfield being orange, Wellington was yellow, based on their number of cases, dropping down to 8.5 per 100,000. Ashford was still in the red with their cases. Columbia had shifted from red to yellow. Wyndham was also red, still is red, but their cases dropped by almost half. And then Coventry was in orange. So, those are some of the things that we would look at, along with, the information that the health department is providing us. So right now, when we talk about Mr. Highlands is, saying that we should be paying attention to the new metrics that have been put out by the CDC. putting both of the counties in the green. We also, whenever there's been upticks in our cases, reached out to the District Highlands Health District and to the State Department of Public Health, get input on what exactly, because they don't have a threshold or a place, a certain number of cases that would be considered an outbreak. So we always consulted whenever there was an uptick. And, we went from, I think, 2 cases, would freak us out. All of a sudden we had 2 cases or 3 cases or 4 cases, and then we were up past 76 cases after Christmas. And, just prior to the holiday, we reached out to the health department to get some insight on, is this an outbreak? And they're taking a look at, well, how much of that is school spread? How much of that is community spread? Is it being spread through athletics? Where there's, the cohorting is there, but the exposure is a little bit harder because they're in close contact with each other. The distancing's not there when we're playing a contact sport, and those are variables that are hard to manage. There's one more question that you asked, and I don't remember which one.
Been sending out emails with those, is that?
We will still be sending out emails about cases that we are still obligated to report cases to the state and to send out information about the cases to the families. As far as what the next step is, we're prepared to share with families what the decision of the board is. And one of the things that Jim mentioned, and you heard families talk about it, and it's something that, we've talked about as a staff, how really important it is to have a respectful community if the choice is to go mask optional. To really respect the individual's choice to wear the mask, and we have ample supply of N95s to provide to students if they choose to continue to mask and to wear it if they want a mask. We also have tests, and so that would be something that we can consider and have conversations about. Is that something that we want to have happen? That was one of the many considerations that they provided to boards of education to give tests out to students prior to going mask optional and ask that they test. Darcy shared with me today some data about Glastonbury, where they did do that, and there were 8 cases. It's a huge school with many students, and it's a K-12 district. So 8 positives overall is not a ton. But at the same time, there were asymptomatic students that it was caught, and they weren't the student population as a result when they went mask optional. So that is certainly something that we can do. We've been allotted additional tests from the state, or potentially we could offer that opportunity prior to going mask optional and or prior to April vacation.
Kim, you're involved in nurses and community. What feedback?
Well, I mean, we've just had some casual conversations, and also I work with younger kids, so it's elementary level where not everyone has access to the vaccines, the preschoolers. So yeah, we would like windows to be able to be open and kids to be outside, just that the timing, for those younger students, that seems more optimal to make the switch. So that's some conversations we have had on the elementary school level. So.
So I work in with a population of children and adults who have developmental disabilities, and even though 95% of our employees are vaccinated, and most of the right now are vaccinated. Because we do so much hands-on as support physically moving people along or monitoring them or working side by side or helping them at lunch, and other activities of daily living, lead children to capacity. And we have also internally, and I think we've been doing this here as well, our agency we have an internal group that's called the symptom review team that continually reviews cases on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. Everybody reports in if someone is sick, just like they would report to Darcy here, if they were not feeling well. We end up doing tests we follow metrics that are set out by the CDC on if someone is showing symptoms, is symptomatic, what you can do, test on the 5th day if you've been exposed to somebody. I'm not going to go into all the details of that. You can look at the CDC or follow the guidance, but I think we've been following that here as well. So be my assumption that would be one of the metrics that we would be following here also. So those are the things, we have safeguards in place, and we're going to continue to kind of check on that on a weekly basis, more frequently if we have to. Continue to make our determinations. I know that a lot of our employees, just like here at school, the staff, the students, people are tired. They're tired of wearing masks. They're tired of not being able to see people's faces. It's really difficult when you use total communication in terms of your whole body, your face, and that's how best we learn. To be able to learn well, if you don't have these factors to pull from. So it's very good.
You guys are awesome.
Tired and they wouldn't want to pass, but people are also tolerant and also want to think of the greater good and protect as many people as possible who are very vulnerable. And we've made some accommodations, I'll also say, in terms of people who are asthmatic, who have other breathing conditions, other situations where they're not able to wear a mask or tolerate a mask. We then, as supporters, end up wearing those masks. So sometimes, and I recognize too, it was commented that masks, help protect you from getting COVID. The boosters for vaccines don't protect you from getting COVID. It protects you from going to the hospital. It protects you from getting very, very sick. And so all of these tools put together is a package of tools that we have in our tool bag. So the mask is one tool that we use, but it's not something that's going to protect you necessarily from getting COVID.
Sarah, what's going on in your school?
I think the most important thing is whatever our decision is. Also, the doors on the very excited. So, I have listened to everybody and particularly appreciate student surveys, parent survey, staff survey, and very consistent. And I feel certain that we will come out with a bigger opinion about the direction that we go. With flexible dialogue.
I'm inclined to support what's going on in the community around us in the surrounding school districts, with the caveat that I would like us to be able to turn on if the need be, which would need to be, I hope that we get a special meeting if necessary, that we wouldn't have to wait up to the next board meeting to decide it, something that we could be decided. Somebody who's got a child at the high school, myself, who has willingly used the mask, but admits to me that if the choice is given, he's taking it off. So I'm hearing him say that, but he also indicated that should cases increase, he's putting it right back on. So I know there's a lot of mixed data, mixed information about whether masks work or don't work. that's sort of moot at this point. When we go to discuss this as a motion, I'm personally gonna be supportive of some type of choice, with the understanding that anything can change and that it's not a permanent decision.
That's exactly where I want to go next. A lot of information that's being public. I want to know what the board is thinking, and what direction we are going. I'm starting to move towards the decision.
I am concerned about that 1/3 of the parents and students who don't want to unmask for various reasons, so I would not want to do it tomorrow. I'd like to give them a few days to figure out what their strategies are going to be before they do it. Weekend.
So, am I reading between the lines correctly? Are you guessing that you want to mask optional?
Absolutely, I'm absolutely for mask optional, but I'm seeing that.
That's really what I try to see, if I can get everybody.
Wilmington school systems, we haven't made a decision yet on masking. March 8th is our next meeting, and I think we'll make a decision at that time. Right now, we're collecting information, surveys, and contacting the state, things of that kind, and we'll make a decision. I did have a question on buses. I've seen conflicting information on that. Cave said that masks were allowed, and then I heard later that that was changed so that it is either optional or they do not have to wear a mask.
No, but do you have any consensus as to where your board might be heading as it approaches the meeting, what direction it might be going? Do you have any feeling, a sense of feedback on that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do you think Wellington Board of Ed is gonna go mask optional for the?
I really don't know. I would, when I look at the statistics for the state, when almost 100% of the schools have gone, choice. Region 19 and Wellington and Ashford, and there are only a few states, few towns that have not made a decision. I can't speak for other board members, but I would imagine that they'll go so that it'll be optional. That would be my guess.
I think I saw Tim's first mention.
Yeah, so first off, I'd like to thank everyone for being able to have this conversation. And everyone is sitting in their seats and we're talking right in a civil way. So thanks everyone for coming. The input's appreciated. That's not happening everywhere. So thanks everybody for engaging on this. It helps us. So my situation, I wear a mask all day, every day at work. I continue to. Our policy hasn't changed. We're a very large company, multinational. That may change tomorrow, but that's the way it is. We just go to work, we do our jobs, and it goes on from there. So I think our priorities are to have the kids in school, most important, right? That's really about a school. I put that to be the biggest cause of the issues that we're dealing with today. That's most important. We need to get our kids on masks. Yes, we do. At the right time, under the right conditions. These seem to be the conditions. What we're seeing, guidance from both the health departments and the CDC, are putting me in a position to say, yes, I think we're there. Let's hope we're right. We don't know if we are. And that's where we'll have to monitor, right? You can talk for 3 days. It won't change how right we are or not, right? There is risk both directions. All along, it has been a risk balance. I'm in a position now to say my opinion, and I hope to reflect that, that we're moving into a position where we can move beyond the masks, and hopefully the outcome is a positive. It's super important that we as a community and our communications need to support this, keep the masks off. We have an influence on that in terms of how we behave as students, right? How we behave in environment, how, you know, our own sort of personal community hygiene, we'll call it, right? So let's engage the community with that. So let's all do this and keep them all, right? Make that a we type of decision. Let's work together to make that happen and not go back. And I would be, just to clarify, because others have, I think given the guidance we have on clarity of it, I would be in favor of not going back. Not extending that.
My comment is more on the social emotional aspect of going, if we were to go mask choice, and just the respect for people's mask preference. I feel as a community, Region 19 has done an excellent job with school climate, democratic discourse, EDJ committee, just really being able to respect people's decisions so that their preference is respected amongst teachers, staff, and students, that everyone feels safe, emotionally safe in school. So.
Any other things from the board? We do have a couple more public comments, and since we're still in the discussion phase, I want to have them now rather than afterwards.
We do have a few. We found a comment from Erin O. from Willington, who said that she wasn't going to say anything, but when one of the speakers said that we are complaining about wearing masks and that we lost 1 million people from COVID, I had to chime in. First of all, masks don't work. The virus is 1/1000th of a hair follicle. It goes right through the masks that the majority of the kids are wearing. This is becoming all political. Even doctors say that it's nothing but a decoration. My uncle is a doctor, and he said they are useless. If somebody is still scared, thanks to the media, then go ahead and wear a mask. If they work like they say they do, then they should be protected. Yes. You mentioned that we lost 1 million people from COVID, which is false. The numbers were massively inflated in our event. My son has had horrible reactions from wearing masks. His face was swollen the other day. He has pimples all over his face. He had to play basketball indoors with a mask on his face. Child abuse, as one doctor said, enough is enough. Sean Lombard from Wyndham says, lift the mask mandate. Pam Peters from Mansfield says, I think we all recognize that mask mandates are never meant to be permanent. I also think we need to be thoughtful around when and how they end. Masks are only one of many strategies used at EO Smith to reduce the spread of COVID. It makes sense to make one change at a time and then assess the effects before making another. I personally would like to see the lunch breaks reduced so that students can eat at normal lunchtime and have time to actually eat before worrying about the masks. Abigail Robinson from Ashford states, unmask the kids, let parents and families choose. An understandable argument. What about the students and staff who spend their days in our school building? For half an hour, I've heard a few arguments from people who are directly impacted by the verdict of this meeting. Yes, other schools and towns have chosen to lift mask mandates. Is it too soon, or is it soon enough for our school community to decide whether this is the safest option? Why not wait a few weeks and observe the results in other districts in our areas before lifting the mandate? If it turns out that there's no difference in cases, then hooray, lift the mandate. If cases explode, we're going to have a hard time putting the cat back in the bag, and your kids are going to be the ones affected by it first. Helene Marcy states, I write to encourage you to keep the mask mandate at EO Smith and work to protect those in our community who are not vaccinated, those who are immunocompromised, and those who live with older adults. Cases have only just gone down and need to give us more time. Thank you. Sally Chernsky from Coventry states, a happy heart makes the face cheerful. It is good medicine. Let our students choose. Thank you. Brendan Griffin from Mansfield states, why are our kids still masked? There's no scientific data that proves that it stops the spread of COVID-19.
As a matter of fact, surveys showed that even people who wore masks for 100% of the time still got COVID. Masks do more harm than good on kids' mental health, social skills, readability, and the list goes on. Kids are lowest at risk, so why continue to mask them when most of the population is vaccinated or have already had COVID and natural immunity? It's parents' choice, and if masks work, then I guess those who still choose to wear one are protected, right? Sammy Griffin from Wyndham states unmask our kids, enough is enough, stop the political agenda, follow the science. Adam Garrison from Ashford states mask mandates, and then states below, Ashford has already voted to go mask choice as of last week, starting next week, starting March 7th. And then also from Adam, as you prepare to transition towards relaxing mitigation efforts, please consider how you support students whose sense of safety and security may be threatened in the absence of mask requirements, especially in light of the collective trauma that our community has experienced and how divisive these decisions may be. I urge you not to rush through this process and develop comprehensive plans that see. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's from Jordana. I urge you to not rush through this process and develop comprehensive plans that seek to protect the full physical and emotional well-being of our students and staff. Thank you.
I would, if people feel like they're not going to go ahead.
Jocelyn and I, in preparation for tonight's meeting, compiled lots of information from both perspectives, whether to keep the mask mandate or to go mask optional or removing the mask mandate. And while we've been hearing lots of public comments, even though we haven't had an opportunity to give our specific report yet, and we think we might have some valuable points that perhaps haven't been brought up yet. And we also haven't heard a significant amount of representation specifically from students, other than the questions on the survey, which are very black or white. And so is there an opportunity for us maybe to share some of the perspectives that we've heard from students now as well?
You're saying you have that available, you're waiting to have that available.
We have it in front of us right now. We prepared it for the meeting.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off, so thank you guys for coming. We wanted to just give our report now because a lot of people have talked about
This
it.
is part of student.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because a lot of what we prepared for tonight is about the mask.
So, do you want to read off my computer? Would that be better?
That might be a little easier. I'm gonna come up to you.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we've gone over this month is about masks as our main priority as students, to kind of feel out how other students are feeling about masks. So I'm gonna turn it over to him first, and he's gonna start talking about some viewpoints that we have heard from students on the side of wanting to keep masks, and then also to the students that I've heard of, has heard from that don't necessarily want masks and want to be optional.
As Jocelyn said, we really appreciate you letting us come here to represent business students. Jocelyn and I have compiled some of the reasons that we took from students who want masks and don't want masks. Since when we did a survey, as we previously stated, 42% of students wanted to continue wearing masks and 45% didn't. It is critical to get both sides of the issue. And as I said, the rest of the students were undecided. Many students who want to continue wearing masks simply would not feel as safe being exposed to non-masked students in a school where not all students are vaccinated. As we know, students who are not vaccinated are at a significantly higher risk of both contracting and spreading COVID. However, it would be incredibly difficult and nearly impossible to enforce a mask requirement by vaccination status policy, especially since it would put a lot of stress on teachers and always be very challenging to monitor. Additionally, a comment we frequently heard is that wearing masks wasn't too much of a hassle. They are simply a part of daily life, and if we have to wear them to reduce the risk of death and disease during a pandemic, then it's worth it. Another concern that many students expressed was making masks optional. While KN95 or N95 masks do offer some protection from other people, the primary purpose of masks is to protect others and yourself. Masks are intended to keep the germs in, not out. As a result, if only the group of students that wants to continue mask wearing keeps using masks, they would not accomplish much because all of the students who didn't wear masks would still pose a significant risk to them. As previously stated, according to a survey among the EO community which we ran last week, 42% of students wanted to continue wearing masks, while 45% said that they felt ready to remove the mask requirement. This is nearly a 50-50 split, and 13% of students are still undecided and could end up going either way. Currently, about half of the student body is unhappy with our mask rules. However, you can see from the input of our student body that if we remove the mask requirement, about half of the students will still be unhappy. And not only will they be unhappy, but they will also feel that their safety is in danger, something that the other students don't have to deal with, even if they do want to take off their masks. Lastly, EO Smith has immunocompromised students who could die from COVID even if they are fully vaccinated. How can we ensure that these students will be protected at school? Can we ensure that they will be able to have a high school education? Again, these are the main arguments and concerns of students who support extending the mask wearing requirement at EO Smith.
Okay, so kind of bouncing off of Sam, I'm going to start talking about the students that don't necessarily want masks and want it to go optional. And thank you guys again for making this decision tonight. We really appreciate it. You know, it's been up in the air for a little bit. So a lot of students are at the point, I think, where they just kind of want a little bit of normalcy. At least that's like what I've heard in a lot of my classes, like especially as a senior. A lot of students are ready to kind of get back out and get into it. Obviously, that can be hard, especially when it's a little bit colder outside. We've also heard that students with the K95s feel like if they took their masks off and somebody would like to wear a mask and they wore a K95, then they would have that ability to protect themselves, because you know that those protecting you more than some other masks. And then a lot of students are hearing from surrounding districts too about like Tallmadge going mask optional and Hartford going mask optional. So I know there's been a little bit of unrest with that, like knowing and having friends that necessarily don't have to wear masks, but coming to school and having to wear masks for yourselves. I know this has been like a big discussion in a lot of classes, like during breaks and things like that. Students have a chance to just kind of relax and talk. And then also the idea that students have had the chance to get vaccinated and also boosted. So if they wanted to, they have the opportunity to, which is also another layer of protection that students have, which is why students are saying they really wanted to go optional, because students have had the opportunity. And I think that just a lot of students are itching for that normalcy. But that was just a lot of, I know, kind of repeating some things that some other people said, but a lot of what we've heard from students, especially like this past week.
Thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to represent the students of EO Smith. We hope that this information will help you to make the best decision possible for the safety, happiness, and success of both students and staff.
Hey, board.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, no problem.
That was good.
Planning to make a decision. There's plenty of discussion, both sides of the equation. So I would like somebody to make a motion one way or another so that the board can move forward.
Yeah, I prefer to make both. Actually, I prefer to make two votes, because I think that upon more thought, we have facilities, physical building at EO Smith. We have buses for parents. I think both would be addressed with the same language, separate them so that we could make a decision. One without the other. I also want to say, before I make it, we're taking a position. As Tim said earlier, part of this is that there's a lot of things we want to, when we go mask optional, we want to keep the mask on. Don't want to have people back. We can do a lot of things to facilitate that, but a lot of it depends on the community. Depends upon if you're not vaccinated, getting vaccinated, are vaccinated, or break the vaccination, update our records. Things like that we can't mandate, but we can recommend, and we urge people to do. That said, this may be too early to start with the facility, school residents.
Tony, are you presenting them for a singular vote or are these independent votes?
I'm going to read them both and we can decide if we want, I mean, how do you want to do it? Read both.
Make the motion that resolve, read both. The motion will encompass both portions of the resolution.
I'm going to try to do this as loudly as I can. Resolve that from and after March 2nd, 2022, all Region 19 district facilities shall be and remain mask optional. Subject to any masking mandates imposed by federal or state law or action. Subject further to any subsequent decision by the Region 19 Board of Education to reinstate a masking requirement based upon its evaluation and assessment of available health and safety guidance and recommendations regarding the coronavirus and its variants from federal, state, regional, and local health agencies and officials, or otherwise in response to rising case levels of coronavirus or any variants within the district town or within E.O. Smith High School facility. All other existing coronavirus protocols shall remain in effect unless and until modified by E.O. Smith High School administration or the Region 19 Board of Education. Resolve further that on and after March 2nd, 2022, masking on school buses and vehicles transporting students to and from E.O. Smith High School facilities shall be and remain optional. Subject, 1, any federal or state mandates that may apply, and 2, to any subsequent action regarding masking taken by the Region 19 Board of Education in accordance with the immediately preceding resolution.
Okay, now it's out there. Discussion.
Second.
No, second.
He seconded. No, we're good, Deborah.
Yeah, the second motion,
Your second.
a resolution.
Deborah already said this.
No, I had a comment.
So you do want discussion.
Yeah, just on the buses, is that within our jurisdiction? And not the states?
Well, the federal, that was the federal order that was lifted on Friday.
Okay, that was it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Go ahead.
When we're talking about how do we collectively kind of keep this in place where it's not up to the back. And I'm sure you have a list in your head going with the things that we can suggest and request. We certainly becomes even more important that folks, if they don't feel well, get tested. Just let's keep the masks off, please. You know, and that's part of it. So to the extent that we didn't decide to delay or it's like the motion reflecting that we may go forward without a sort of comprehensive testing, it would be good to make sure tests are out there such that when people feel questionable or not well, that we can make sure they can get themselves tested. If they're positive, just great. Do everyone else a favor? Going to school. It's an important aspect of this whole thing, more than it was before.
We certainly have ample supplies, test kits. We'll be receiving one from the state tomorrow. They're supposed to be available last Friday. Situation. So we do conduct those
concerns about changes that will going to affect immediately and affect behavior 8 hours from now. I thought that we heard concerns from the community about wanting there to be a documented plan and some preparation and a little bit of lead time for people to prepare for this, to receive test kits, to read the plan, for their kids about what the plan would be, for the staff to read the plan, prepare. So it makes me a bit nervous to make this change so rapid without the chance to communicate the change and what's expected and the what would be needed to make sure that we don't revert to masks. So I just want to state that as a concern that I have with this immediate change.
Don't know. Understand that that's not part of the motion, so you're concerned you can go forward against the motion as currently get this thing.
Sure, I just want to put it out there.
Motions, is that something you have to do that as a vote? What kind of motion?
No, you can request a friendly amendment. You also second that.
So just to keep in with that conversation, I don't disagree with that, particularly in light of the fact that this is going to be a big meeting. Communicating is not going to be that easy. If the motion were amended, I'm prepared to move, some amendment to just give a couple of extra days of time for all this to be put together.
Request a friendly amendment, but the person making the motion. Make a determination. If the motion on the table doesn't pass.
Understood. And I just add a piece is that Lou has worked on a statement that certainly could include some of those pieces that will go out to families. I think the concern, I feel the same way about my concern. The mitigating measures that are currently in place, the only thing to change it would be the mask piece. And so everything else would be the same. The mask piece is probably the part that's most consistently enforceable. As social distancing is a little bit of a challenge outside of the classroom, but I certainly understand those concerns. As far as lunch waves and some of the other mitigating measures that are already in place, those would be maintained. There's also, as part of the communication to teachers and to staff and to families and students is that expectation. So I think what we heard loud and clear was that if the district is choosing to go optional, that there has to be a culture of respect and support for every student, regardless of whether they're choosing to wear their mask or not to wear their mask. And that's something that has to be a very strong message and correspondence that we send, whether it's for mask removal of masks tomorrow or a couple of days down. Just one more question for the chair. And potentially Lou. Do you need a return? I'm gonna let Lou take that one.
No, not necessarily. As Sharon mentioned, I have an email with prompts ready for staff. We'll have a couple extra hours in the morning to read it, talk about it with colleagues. We have an email from staff. I think it's important. The gist of the comments were respected, that there was a lot of concern for other people. I fully expect that to happen. Talked to a lot of teachers. They've already had the conversations in their classes. I think we'll be fine. I think they'll have the conversations tomorrow. They'll have had a chance to talk to their colleagues in the morning. I think we can do that. We will send out a follow-up email probably Thursday about the test kits as people can pick them up, so people can do as Tim suggested. So I feel that we can do this.
Yes.
Tony, can you just remind, did you include some piece about you were going to be, that the board will monitor?
Excuse me.
We're going to be monitoring the
Well, it's
situation on a monthly
it's
basis?
subject to any subsequent decision by the Region 19 Board of Education to reinstate a mask requirement based upon its evaluation and assessment. And we will health and safety guidance recommendations regarding the coronavirus from any of the companies and based on or in response to rising case levels within.
Okay, I just wanted to-
It's not gonna be limited to number.
Whenever
There's a
I
chance.
know, we do, yes, sorry,
that the meetings be able to change.
And it does reiterate that all other protocols are just mask.
Right, right. And I want to concur more than I prefer a few days more.
Anything further? Okay. I'm gonna do some votes in favor.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Couple of hours, so that's a good decision.
Now we're gonna go back and go to the beginning of our meeting.
Mhm. That decision, okay? Hmm?
Yep.
You think most students will go along with it?
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I hope there's not too much resistance from students because the decision is a decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So normally we go right to the report, we do have a special report from, Jacob Bernstein, who has been here for a long.
Yes, well, let's hear it.
Jacob, we would like to go right to you.
Yeah, I just want to mention, thank you, Jason, for this, so that we can honor you. Congratulations. But Jacob was awarded 2022 National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association Scholar Essay. And so he is here this evening to share his opinion, to honor us with sharing of his essay. With that,
Thank you for the introduction. I'm talking about this. Hopefully that's a good explanation. Okay, well, like you were first mentioned, I was the winner of Connecticut for the male section for the National Interscholastic Athletic Scholarship. Considering my passion for athletics as well as my goal to continue my athletic and educational experience at the college level. When I heard about the scholarship opportunity, I was immediately excited and it stood out to me. Like I mentioned, I am the #1 male finalist for the state of Connecticut. I was honored with a $1,000 check as well as a plaque recognizing me as the state winner. I'm also now entered into the regional level, with further selected as a national finalist at the regional level. And yeah, I will be sharing my essay, which responds to the question, how high school athletics impacted my life. During my high school athletic career, I've had the privilege of playing under many spectacular and inspirational athletes. As an underclassman playing on the Washington team, I feared that I would be ostracized or not fully integrated into the team. However, these upperclassmen were extremely welcoming and supportive and ensured that the team functioned as a community working towards a shared goal. Therefore, when I was selected as a captain for my senior season of soccer and my junior and upcoming senior season of tennis, I did my best to emulate the traits I observed in individual models. Personally, I think I executed on this goal. During these 2 seasons as captain, I was able to foster an environment of camaraderie and cooperation, which uncoincidentally led to my most statistically successful season of my school career. The ability to tangibly see these results allowed me to even more fully comprehend the value of leadership. Unfortunately, although I was an effective and competent captain on my sports teams, I struggled to exhibit those characteristics in other areas of my life. Especially in school, I was unable to push past my general shyness and insecurities to be an involved and contributing member of my classes, clubs, and the school as a whole. Often, I would miss out on social events, wouldn't attend many club meetings, or would rarely contribute to in-class conversations. However, after having multiple successful seasons that occurred because of confident leadership, I decided to make a significant change in my life. Following my senior soccer season, I went to more school events and sports games, joined the clubs, and became a more vocal contributor in class discussions. While this was definitely out of my comfort zone, I'm still appreciative that through my involvement in sports, I've become a more confident and outgoing person and doing something like this. High school athletics have had an indescribable impact on my life. Through my involvement with various teams throughout my 4 years of high school, I've met incredible people, made unforgettable memories, and learned crucial life lessons. Athletics have had such an impact on my life that I'm unwilling to allow my athletic career to end my high school career. With that being said, I'm looking forward to continuing my athletic career in college and furthering my development as an athlete, teammate, and a personal goal. I will be playing with new teammates under a new coach representing a new school, but I will still apply my newfound confidence and leadership skills to get the most out of my next chapter of my life. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Key reports, personnel.
Personnel met. We had quite the agenda on February 15th. So we discussed attendance of medical leave. We also were looking at proposals put together by the secretaries or administrative assistants and in terms of their job descriptions and salary, and IT jobs as well. And last but not least, we have custodian negotiations coming up this year. So we got some busy times coming up this spring quarter. And so there are 2 dates with the personnel meeting coming up. I think March 17th will be meeting again, and then again on the 31st. So just mark it down.
Policies did not meet.
Finance.
Finance committee met before this meeting. There will be, for the finance committee members, will be meeting at 6:30 prior to board meetings if we have anything to discuss. So tonight on the agenda, you'll be receiving, on the consent agenda, you'll be receiving the quarterly reports. I also want to bring your attention to anybody in the public who's interested. We have budget hearings coming up on Tuesday. So next Tuesday, we meet here for a budget review in terms of what next year's budget is going to look like, or we're planning on the superintendent's budget that's been proposed. So there are several meetings coming up through March, mostly on Tuesdays.
Building did not meet as a committee. I, as incoming chair, was able to connect with Sharon and Dennis on site, aligned a bit. And we have our next meeting next Tuesday prior to the budget review at 6 p.m.
Virtual.
EDJ did not meet this month. We will have our next meeting on March 29th here. I'm sure it's 7 o'clock. It is open to the public. One of the things we will be addressing is looking at selection of our policies through the protocols that Lou shared with us at the retreat, and share with us at the EDJ committee to determine that our policies are equitable. Or 28th, okay, 6 p.m. 28th at 6 p.m. here. Which is the folks.
your student report. Did you have anything more to add, Justin?
I think that was pretty much it. We went through what.
Superintendent report.
So not to belabor the length of the meeting today, I think it's pretty clear. If you have any questions or anything about the report, the one thing that I do want to lift up is the eighth grade open house. That happened a couple weeks ago. Great turnout, there were over 260 people. Dr. Loretto, admin team, Joe Elliott, Renee, Nigerian, and counseling staff did an amazing job, and our teachers who came in that night to set up displays. Great atmosphere, great to help with the building. The upcoming ninth graders and the building is amazing there, so it was a really positive experience.
Did you get good attendance from outside of the 3 towns as well?
We didn't have the attendance for, I spoke to families from Columbia, but we didn't have attendance for who the represented towns were. And in your packet, under correspondence, is a packet that was provided to families that was put together by our counseling department and by the department leaders. So they all did a fantastic job.
Yeah, that was good.
The packets that we put together, Joelle gets tons of kudos from the main office. Put together a beautiful packet, very professional.
Any questions? Does anybody have any changes or questions on?
Can I remove the field trip from the consent agenda? Overnight field trip. Yeah.
You can remove that.
So moved.
Second. Tim? Okay. So, it's already discussed. Consent agenda is modified to vote on favor.
Aye.
Opposed. Now we can go back to the
It's actually been removed by he's withdrawn it. Okay, so it's been withdrawn. That competition is going to be a day trip. Families are going to their students and hopefully them there, the West and if they decide to stay as a family in New York, then that's up to them. But it's been removed as a overnight trip.
Okay. I just wanted it removed because the form says it's the old form still, and I want to make sure we're using the new one.
We have that updated.
Okay.
And actually, Kim requested that today. So I did see the notice that just responded again. About the form.
Oh, no, my email today was about a copy of the policy and to update it to the website and to have availability for people who would like to see it. I've had a couple people ask me about the new updated policy.
And the forms about.
Yes, they'll be part of that.
So
They'll be part of
that's
that.
actually part of that. When it's sticking points, it's scheduled.
Okay.
All right, good. Could we move?
Yeah, it's irrelevant, but I just, yeah.
Okay, then, discussion on the next. I would certainly entertain if we have a discuss a motion to second by Sarah. We'll go on to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. We'll go into executive session. Thank you, everybody that showed up tonight. I appreciate it. After our discussion in executive session, I believe that there is a motion that somebody.
Oh, wait, no, this is incoherent, what I wrote. You want me to do that? Sure. Move that a teacher report to the personnel committee a comprehensive plan of what they expect to accomplish and intended upon acceptance at your level.
That was Janice's motion.
Second.
Second by Nancy.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, sorry. Are we just right now to require that admission as an aspect of this motion? I'm not sure that fits right. The discussion in the personnel committee that can be part of the discussion, but I'm sure we don't make that requirement now because her plan B may well be solid and adequate that you would agree to. But we're putting in the requirement for admission now before you can talk about it. So I guess I was asking for a revision of the motion such that admission as a precondition now is not there, and the personnel committee can discuss and decide.
Well, the other thing the personnel committee can discuss and decide is that they will revise the motion if they come before the board. Because remember, this is just for the personnel committee to consider, and for the personnel committee to personnel committee back to so we've gone over this thing back with. We don't believe that contingency is necessarily appropriate. So we're going to recommend the following motion with respect to these steps.
It sounded like it was a further requirement, an addition separate from the personnel committee's review.
Well,
I'll
Frankly,
second Friday again. That's okay.
just refer to the, yes, take care.
Okay, go ahead, Chris. Okay.
Well, the second has to be.
I'll agree, this is fine.
So the motions have been amended. Any amendment is seconded by the person making the motion, I'll second. So the contingency, I'll be seconded. Any further discussion?
Okay.
Any opposed? The last item on the agenda is public comment. Looks like we still have some folks available.
I'm a staple at the school board meetings in Columbia, so I'm there.
Covering both, huh?
Yeah, I usually speak way outside of my time. I made a promise to unmask our kids' CT, that I would actually deliver these to you. You did get them in the email, but I feel like I need to at least. There you go. There's copies, there's multiple, but there are 400 plus. I mean, somebody handpicked them out of, like, tried to, by zip code, so there may be a couple of this, but there's 400 plus. I don't need a mic, I'm very loud. The issue I think I heard was the school will be providing tests. Is that correct? Okay, I don't know if you can respond to that. Are they rapid tests? Okay. Rapid tests have never proven to be accurate. And I know this because we, in a lot of walks of life, I'm a service technician, so a lot of us end up taking tests. And some of us take 4 at a time, 5 at a time. I've seen people take 7 at a time, 2 positives, 5 negatives. My security guard at work goes and takes a test, it's a negative, goes to take a PCR test, or he got a positive, freaked out, goes and takes a PCR test, it's negative, right? So I think it's important to have a guideline set up that says, what constitutes a positive? Is it you give a student a rapid test, the student either takes it at school, which I would never have them do that, takes it, say they take it at home, what do? They call and say, I tested positive for COVID. That's not even remotely reliable. So is there any type of assurance that there is redundancy to make sure that if there actually is a positive case and not a child that doesn't want to go to school, or a child that dips it in soda because certain sodas produce a positive on those at-home tests. I'm not going to tell you which ones. It's important to set the tone, like you all said in this meeting, is the objective would be to keep the masks off the kids in the most safe way we can do this. Rapid tests are completely crazy erratic. Even PCR tests have been shown where they were going to remove them as of December 31st, and then they kind of pushed it through because they did have another test because there were so many inconsistencies. I think there needs to be some type of policy in place that says a rapid test is not a definitive positive, and you need to take another PCR test and provide a result to the school. I'm obviously doing this because it is selfish on my end, because I do not want my son wearing a mask again. But I see so many people, I'm not going to tell you which department, but I have a lot of friends that are cops, and they play this game all the time because they have a lot of tests available to them, and it's constant. It's 3 positives, 2 negatives, 2 negatives, 6. It's crazy how bad they are. So I think moving forward, even if it's not not this evening, but the school needs to look at it and say, if you're going to quote count it as a positive, it really should be positive and not some flighty, inconsistent test that will give you a random result at a random time.
No, I can't speak for Sharon, but the tests came back, if they took one of the likely scenario quarantine, because we don't have any evidence that it's not true. If we're back up, the recommendation, you take another test, to verify the results, and the test comes back and it's negative, that is, I think, a reasonably good indicator that the original test was not necessarily accurate.
Correct.
But we're not going to err and say, well, we don't know that the rapid test is very good or not good, so you can stay in school. That's not the way to go.
Not making that distinction. I would never ask you to keep a child in school that tested positive. Absolutely not. I'm saying there has to be some type of concrete redundancy that says you have a positive test result on a rapid test. You need to have a PCR test.
And I wish Darcy was here, because that's for practice.
Okay.
We thought, especially if you have an asymptomatic
Yeah.
person who tests, the home test, she will count for them to follow up with
Right.
a PCR. But at the same time, if we have a symptomatic student, which is probably more often, when there's a student presenting with symptoms in the nurse's office, she will send them home with a home test.
Right.
If they test negative, she'll ask them to follow up with PCR. And there's that constant, there's on the ground, really dealing every day
Right.
with the one-to-one personal interaction between kids and families around what their circumstances. And asking them to follow up.
Okay. Yeah, that was the only thing I wanted to put forward. I'll absolutely let you go home now. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Are there more public comments?
I made a public comment on.
Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, there is.
Second.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.